This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joire.
Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joire, and today is Thursday, January 9th, 2020. It's still CES. This is my second show. If you haven't listened to the first show, go back and listen to that. But I have a couple of guests with me here today. I've got Nicole Scott here of Mobile Geeks, and I've got Nick of Phandroid, of course. Nick Ray.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So I'd like to take a second to thank our sponsor. We have two. We have our usual sponsor, but we also have Dassault Systèmes as our sponsor at CES this year. And Dassault Systèmes demonstrates how the virtual world is enabling companies to efficiently leverage data and technology to create sustainable, personalized experiences that improve people's lives. So there's a few things we've seen since the last show that I want to go through, but I also kind of want to hear what stood out for you. A lot of people ask me the question, and I'm having a really hard time answering this year, which is what stood out for you? And honestly, it feels to me like it was a good show, but not a great show, and nothing really stood out. But maybe it's because I've been doing this for 12 years and I'm jaded. I don't know.
I've had that question asked of me a couple different times, and mainly from other manufacturers wanting to know what they should go check out on their free time, and I've had a hard time answering that. Like, I've had to pull through, oh, this is the cool thing, and it's really hard. There's a lot to see. There's a lot of innovation, but there's nothing really like years in the past that something's really stood out as, the showstopper.
Or if it is, then you won't be able to see it on the show floor. I mean, for me, CES is still a very important show, because the company set their intentions. We're able to access so many great executives to have cool meetings, but it's not like my meeting with this executive is something cool that you can go and see.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, or like this cool conversation that I had would be the thing for you to kind of take away from the show, right? So for me, I think the coolest thing that I did was the Audi IME Drive, only because autonomous drive car, VR headset, floating through the mountains of China. This was pretty cool, because
you're really stuck in traffic in LA, but you're floating.
But you're really floating
China.
through,
okay.
Exactly, right? And I often never get to drive a concept car, and this was one of the few times I was able to do that. So
you drove that e-tron GT, didn't you?
Last
year in 2019
at the LA Auto Show, but that wasn't autonomous. I actually drove it.
I was jealous of you.
Most expensive car I've ever driven.
It looks baller, that thing.
3.8 million.
Wow.
3.8, and you're like, don't crash.
There was the cops around me the whole time.
Did they only have one in the world? Okay.
Basically, yeah.
Anyway, so for me, I think if I have to pick all the gadgets I've seen, the OnePlus Concept Phone is really close to my heart, because I'm a big fan of OnePlus. And even though it's very showy, there are some things about it, yes. Nicole is holding her clutching
with love.
Her OnePlus 7T here.
To my heart.
And I, in my pocket, have a OnePlus 7T Pro 5G McLaren edition or something. So I feel that's one thing. But the other thing that I feel as strongly about is the Lenovo, I think Nick, you'll relate to this, Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Fold.
Love it.
We talked about that on the last show, so if you want to get a preamble, listen to that. But you can stay right on here, because we're going to go over it again. It's just so good.
And I don't cover Windows devices, but it's one of those devices where you have to pay attention. We've seen so many foldable devices over the last 12 months that we've kind of gotten an idea of what they're going to be looking like within the next year or two. And I think this was the first device that is actually really useful with its foldable screen. And it's not something that's going to fall apart when you actually touch it and use it.
That's what struck me the most about it. I felt like, as I said in the last show, that I could just drop kick that thing by accident and it'd be fine.
Yeah, and so when I was testing it, I asked the product manager, do I need to be careful about pressing on the screen when I'm folding and unfolding it? And she said, no, go at it. And it's a much harder plastic than what we saw on the Galaxy Fold on the display, but it's still a little bit malleable. So it does have the pen support.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, right on it. And you can feel a little bit of that capacitive pen support that we used to have on, mobile devices back in the day. It's not a capacitive screen, but you get kind of that feel when you're writing with a pen. You get that tactile feedback, which feels really nice compared to writing on the screen with a note.
That's cool. I mean, for me, what I really liked the best about it was it felt finished. Even when, the Fold, obviously the Galaxy Fold just didn't feel finished from day one, and certainly wasn't. Even I think in its current version, it's still a pretty iffy proposition.
It feels more like a concept device, right?
Correct. And so this to me is like, I love the combination of things. The silicone bezel that completely
all the way around
covers the display, and so nothing can get in.
And it covers the hinges, right, where it folds
exactly,
as well.
And then the other thing I thought was really cool was it's made of carbon fiber, and there's a stainless steel in the back behind the display that when you fold it goes like a comb, like this. You see?
Yep.
And there's always enough of the plastic of the screen resting on that you can put pressure on it anywhere, and you won't get what you get on a Galaxy Fold. Like, you can use this with a pen without feeling like you're going to stab through the screen and break pixels. Which on the Galaxy Fold, every time I use a fingernail, I feel like I'm going to break something.
Which you probably are.
Yeah, and I mean, I know it's capacitive, you're not supposed to use a fingernail, but you do, right? You accidentally tap it with your fingernail. So yeah, that was impressive. I felt that combination of form factors, and the fact that even though they couldn't close it perfectly, they left a gap to put that keyboard in there.
Which is totally smart. I mean, I loved how durable the Fold X1 felt. And immediately after that meeting, basically, I went to see Intel's concept laptop based on their Tiger Lake platform, and they wouldn't close it. I think you had the same experience.
Yeah, it was terrible.
They wouldn't let you really. They were like, freaking out. There's only one. Oh my God, it's so fragile. And like, you sort of realize, I'm like, okay, this laptop reference design from Intel should be significant, because this is the reference design that all laptops makers could use to build their foldable, right? Yeah. But Lenovo has one on the market that we feel
it's coming, right?
That is coming out this year, that we already feel is solid. And what is Intel doing? Putting out this flimsy piece of shit that they won't even let us touch.
I asked, right? And I said, like, is this a prototype from last year? Because I thought this was a precursor to Lenovo.
Yeah. Same.
Right? And I was like, they brought it because it's slightly bigger form factor and they're being fancy.
Why didn't they just get a generic Lenovo one to show off?
And then to be like, look how good our reference design
and
is.
actually Lenovo has one as well.
I mean, so Intel didn't have a booth this year.
Nope.
Qualcomm didn't have a booth this year. Qualcomm had an automotive booth.
Yeah, I know.
Right, so I mean, like, things are like for mobile in this one breath, things have really changed.
They really, you walk into Central Hall, typically it's Intel right there, and Qualcomm
right there.
Nope.
Neither of I walked in, I was like, where the fuck are they?
Where'd they go? Right, and so you sort of like feel this shift within CES that those two big players took a step back and only did meeting rooms and didn't do full booths to show off all their wares.
I mean, they still have a massive presence here, except it's not like what it's been in the past.
No, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel like CS is evolving. You go to the North Hall, and it's just, like, remember North Hall was just like crappy crap like 5 years ago?
Speakers, it was like,
with a few car makers. Now it's like
speakers,
lots of car makers, all of them legit, and a lot of car tech, like, adaptive headlights, like radar, LiDAR, ADAS systems. Like, and some of it is very B2B, but some of it is like, we know that they're having meetings in the back rooms of CES, working out deals so that our car 2 years from now will have this technology, right? Cool.
Yeah, and the thing we've been saying for a long time is CES is turning into an automotive show. CES is coming. It's all cars. And I think that we saw these two like quite pivotal moments with Sony putting out a car, which is kind of ridiculous. But it says, so I took three things away from it. A, it's super easy to make a reference design for cars because you don't have to actually build them, right? The tier ones, like Magna and Bosch, they're companies I cover, but for the mainstream audience, doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, nobody knows.
Nobody wants to talk about tier one automotive manufacturers, even though they're doing the brunt of the R&D.
Yeah.
Right? So it was a brilliant play from Sony to do this, right? Absolutely brilliant. They got to, promote the fact that they make sensors. They got to promote the fact that they also make displays, but they don't actually make displays for automotive. This was just a look at me, we make displays.
Well,
Right.
we
Right?
could make displays
I guess
for
we could
automotive.
make display. I mean, but LG display is like killing it.
Oh, I know they
Yeah,
are.
there's like.
But they were there already in the early days. Remember when we
For
saw
so
like
long, yeah.
automotive flexible displays?
Yeah.
And now you look at the Porsche Taycan and the dashboard is
Yep.
clearly an OLED display
Oh, yeah.
from LG
From
that's
LG.
flexible, right? Like there's nobody else who makes that. You know it.
You know
Well,
it's from
and to
them.
tie into that, Royale, who was here last year showing off the foldable phone, now they're in Central Hall,
Yeah.
moved from South Hall, the prominent position, and they're showing off automotive flexible displays. And I think we're going to see more flexible displays in automotive than we probably are in consumer products, because that makes a lot more sense. You have a display that can contour to a certain shape
Yeah.
in a vehicle rather than
Yeah.
a folding phone or a folding tablet. That's completely different.
I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens next year at CES when they open whatever they're going to call it, West Hall. I mean, I assume it's going to be
Brand
West
new
Hall.
one.
The brand new one across the street from North Hall. Because then if they do, and all the big, expensive like LG, Samsung companies move there, which I would expect because like they're so cramped in there. Central Hall is becoming a bit of a nightmare. So maybe the future will be you graduate from South Hall to Central Hall to North Hall to West Hall. And when you hit West Hall,
You've
you know
made
the
it.
shiny new West Hall. Yeah, I don't know.
But then the thing is that the automotive guys want more of a presence here, and they don't have the room in North Hall. And they
Exactly.
need big booths to show off their cars, right?
Yeah,
Like
it takes
they need,
a lot more space.
It takes up a lot more space.
Well, like
And
the
with
automotive
Detroit,
shows up
yeah.
here, but Detroit is right around the corner.
And everyone's pulled out of Detroit basically, and they're all showing off here.
Yeah,
right?
Detroit's
So-
happening later this month?
Yeah,
sometime?
yeah.
Are you
Couple
going?
weeks.
A couple weeks.
Nicole, you gonna go?
No.
I don't know. I mean,
Hard no.
you-
No, there's really nothing that happens at this show anymore.
so it's just the incumbents.
well,
and
but
all the
even,
disruptors
Well,
are
it-
here.
No, but
It's-
even the incumbents aren't even showing up. Like
Oof.
the Germans have, for the most part, pulled out almost completely.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, like it's
Become quieter and quieter.
it's become quieter and quieter, and there's very little reason for global media to show up anymore.
But going back to what I was saying earlier, that I felt it was a good show, but not a great show. For me, I mean, it's never been a phone show, but surprisingly, we got some good phone announcements.
I wouldn't say good phone
Well, I think
announcement. Like there
TCL
was a couple products.
I think
so
the
TCL didn't
TCL
announce any phones. They said, "Here's a phone that we're going to announce
No, but
next
I mean,
month."
we all know that. I mean, it's very clear that this is the TCL 10 series, which is the 10 Lite, 10 Pro, 10 5G, are going to be coming to the US unlocked and sub 500. And to me, for CES, that's a big announcement,
Yeah.
especially from a company like TCL, who only technically started, because we know they make Alcatel phones,
Yep.
but technically started making phones
Under their own brand.
At IFA with the Plex. And so that was a big thing. OnePlus deciding to do a concept at CES, which is not a phone show, where they've always been but never had an actual presence because there was always a party, is also, I think, significant as a mobile. And then finally, you did not get your Xperia 3, Nick.
I did not. I did not. No, rumors were pointing that it was coming. And
I mean, instead you got a car from Sony, so...
well, but that's the thing. Like everyone showed up to the Sony press event expecting something. Honestly, besides the car, Sony was underwhelming this year.
Yeah,
Like
but
you
it
walk,
was
you
last
walk
year
into
too.
but you walk into their booth. They're not even showing off their full product portfolio.
Oh,
They
really?
weren't showing off photography.
Oh, no.
No, they don't have any cameras. They were showing a lot of industrial stuff
Interesting.
along with it. They were showing
Wow.
off their cinema cameras and stuff
Right.
like that. A lot less consumer stuff, which I don't know if is going to be a bigger shift that we're going to see from them going forward. But I mean, Sony's still a beloved brand, but from a consumer standpoint, we're seeing less and less from them every single year.
And the booth was significantly smaller.
Yeah,
Like,
it was kind of
somehow-
depressing.
Yeah, like somehow they blocked off, because it used to be that whole back room.
Yeah.
And now they seem to have blocked off half of it with nothing. Or somehow you don't see it.
Yeah.
But I was walking through it and really realized this is half the size of what it used to be.
Yeah. Well, and so I had a couple people with me that is their first CES, and the Sony booth is
Poor
typically my
souls.
favorite booth to go
absolutely.
visit because you could just go play with all their audio stuff, play with their cameras. And I told a couple of the guys, make sure you hit the Sony booth.
And then
they
just
messaged me
wah,
like,
wah,
why
wah.
did you tell me to come here? But I mean,
Whoops.
but then they had the press event, and literally we go to PepCon. We didn't go to the press event, and everyone came back like, "Did you see the Sony car?" Like I think that was for me. That was the biggest surprise of CES was that Sony showed up with a car. That's something completely out of left field.
And so, in that sense, going back to good, not great CS, for me, I didn't expect much on mobile. So I was happy to get a little bit something unusual. And then laptops and gaming and stuff was pretty much what I expected. But contrary to last year, where, like, Asus did that crazy, like, weird laptop desktop hybrid and a bunch of other stuff, it just seemed a little bit more chill.
And Dell did as well.
Yeah, exactly. But at least we got Lenovo who rescued us with the ThinkPad X1 Fold and a bunch of other things, of course, like the 5G Yoga and the what was the one, the ThinkBook or something that has the OLED, not OLED,
the
e-paper,
the ThinkBook of the e-ink. I actually really like that e-ink laptop. I spent more than But I spend more than enough time playing with the back, being like, oh my God, we'll take so many notes with this. Look at this artistic drawing that I've made of myself. I don't know why. I really expected us to get e-ink displays on everything. On everything, like without any fanfare. Like it's just like so much more simply than what seems to have happened.
I don't know. I kind of like, for me, I suddenly had like flashbacks to Yota phone. Remember that?
Yep.
With that laptop.
Yep. But then Samsung showed up with their Chromebook.
Yeah, so I never got to see it.
It's actually pretty amazing for the price. Like
how much is it?
$9.99 for their base with a 4K display.
And it's like it looks
and the pen support.
And it looks like a fancy, a newer, like basically.
It's an aluminum body.
It looks like what the Pixel Book was. But if you redid it now.
Oh.
Yeah, so like the original Pixel Book,
exactly.
but like a lot. It's like half the thickness of the original,
which is incredible because that thing is already super thin.
Yeah,
so it's red. It's super sexy.
Yeah, there's red and a silver.
Oh, there's a silver.
There's a silver, and the only downside is the hinge is not really sturdy. Like even while you're typing like on a desk, like the whole screen is like wobbling
it's
back
called
and
what?
forth.
The Samsung Chromebook.
It's just called a Chromebook. Yeah,
it's just called the Galaxy Chromebook.
Galaxy.
Or the Galaxy Chromebook.
I'm just looking it up because I totally missed it. It looks gorgeous.
No, you need to check it out. It's amazing.
Looks gorgeous.
I'm still pissed at Samsung for not inviting me to that briefing. You hear that, Samsung?
And we talked about this. I marked it for the wrong day, so I didn't even go. I was like, it's supposed to be the next night, and then, whoops, I missed.
And although we talked about them last show, like 2 days ago, they did bring the very confusing Note 10 Lite and S10 Lite phones to that briefing. But those phones don't make any sense to me.
Me neither.
I think it's one of those... We have some processors and components left over. We need to get rid of them. Let's build a phone.
They're compliance phones. We had to meet a quota by December 31st. Because, I mean, they're so close to the launch of the S11 or S20, whatever.
I don't think they're going to hit the market before the S11 launches.
So what is it about them that you guys think is like this is a completely ridiculous product?
So first of all, the Note 10 Lite is a Note 10 because it's got the stylus, the S Pen. So far, so good, right?
Yeah.
But it has a headphone jack, which the other Notes don't have.
Yeah.
Then the S10 Lite also looks more like an S10 series phone. So far, so good. But it has no headphone jack.
And the bodies of these two phones are exactly the same.
Yeah, and the bodies of the two phones are the same. And the S10e already exists basically as an S10 Lite. Yeah. And then the camera systems are wackadoodle. So the Note...
And they use different processors. One's an Exynos and one's a Snapdragon.
Exactly. I was going to get to the processor. The Note 10 is a normal triple camera, like ultra-wide, tele, regular. That makes sense. But then the S10 has like a 64 megapixel Samsung sensor as a main camera. Then it has two other cameras, but it's not like an ultra-wide.
One's a depth sensor, one's a macro.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's the processors, as Nick pointed out. I didn't want to take it from yourself, so go ahead, Nick. Tell us about the processor.
So one's running an Exynos, and then the other one's running a Snapdragon 855.
Correct.
And the question is,
the Note is the Exynos.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the question is, like, we don't know pricing yet. And this late in the game, already the Samsung Galaxy Note's been on the market for 5.5 months.
Yeah.
You can already buy it for $300 off.
Yeah.
these phones have to sell for $500 or less to be relevant. They're not. They're going to be $700 to $800 phones. So you can buy the actual flagship for less money than these devices.
And I'm
can.
surprised there's 855 on the S10 Lite because I would have
Instead
expected
of the
to
five-
go for 730 or 765 or
Is
something.
it like an emerging market play and we just don't
No,
realize?
because they have the A series. And who in emerging markets buy an 855? No phones with the emerging market at 855.
Yeah, but so the camera setups though are similar to, so the cameras are a downgrade from the flagships. So
Yeah.
it's A series cameras with flagship processors and RAM.
Yeah.
So, and the flat screen, so you don't have the curved display or anything like. So
Although
they're saving money on that.
There's
end.
no Note 10 with Exynos.
No, there's no Note 10 in that.
So now there is. So I guess they remedied that.
They had too many processors.
They
That's
both
what happened
have
there. Yeah.
4,500 milliamp hour batteries.
Oh, that's big.
Like it'll last
Anyway,
you 2.5 days, which
I
is
don't want to
awesome.
spend more time talking about them because they're
And we're
just
done.
confusing and it just doesn't make any sense. And they were launched technically before CES. And then the reason I brought them up is because I was bitchy about not getting a briefing on them.
Yeah. Well, it was late last week when they
Yeah,
launched.
exactly. I think it was before the new year. I think they were announced on the 31st of December or 30th of December. Or something stupid.
Perfect.
I don't know, it's quotas. It's quotas.
Perfect, yeah.
We didn't sell enough Exynoses. Let's say that we
Yeah.
have this.
For this
now.
product that was released in 2019. Zoop, got it.
Yeah, weird. So I mean, for me, in terms of laptops, since the last podcast I did 2 days ago, I saw a new laptop from Asus that was cool. Asus ROG Zephyrus G14, which is at first sight looks more like either a business or a creative laptop in terms of its like aesthetics, silver magnesium or black magnesium chassis, matte black. So think Razer, say it looks more like a Razer laptop than like a Zephyrus normally with like the LEDs everywhere and the weird angular shapes and the red stripes.
Red
and
stripes and
not all of that,
rainbow.
but it's a genuine bona fide gaming laptop with a 10-hour battery life. But the cool things that stood out for me were, it has the usual laptop features for a gamer. It has an RTX 2060. It has 180 watt power supply with a coax input, but it also charges over USB-C up to 65 watt. And it can actually run games on the 65 watt USB-C charger. That doesn't come in the box, but it's nice that you have an option of.
Of course, the charger
chargers.
doesn't come in the box.
The big one, yeah.
Yeah.
The big one does. The big
No,
one
no,
does,
no, but the
not
USB-C,
small one,
right?
Small one,
Other things that I like, it has upgradable SODIMMs for RAM and upgradable.
Oh,
and
that's
NVMe,
unique.
That's good.
NVMe SSD. You just remove the plate like you do on a MacBook at the bottom, and it's all there.
Oh, amazing.
And
Or
it
any
has,
old laptop.
And it has two
Yeah.
display options. It has a 1080p 144 hertz panel, or a 1440p 60 hertz panel. And then it has, and this is where it gets really exciting. So far you're going to say, what the hell are you talking about, Miriam? Who cares about this? Well, here's what's cool. It has that Ryzen 4000 chip that AMD just announced here at CES, with which apparently they have an exclusive with Asus for 3 months with that chip. And they basically, it's a 45 watt chip normally, and they got it done clocked to a 35 watt in this application. So it's even more energy efficient and still gaming capable. And the thing that's cosmetically really makes you, and attracted me in the first place to like, ooh, I need to do a video of this thing. I know I left it for the end, is the back of the display. So when you close the lid of it on the outside has this array of LEDs that instead of covering the entire back, covers like a triangular section of the back. And it's like, the dot case from HTC phones back in the day.
The dot view cases.
Yeah, dot
Which
view.
I love.
It has 1,000 LEDs in a triangular pattern. They're, as far as I could tell, only white, not RGB. But and it only has 1 millimeter thickness to the laptop. And they are completely programmable by the user. You can have text scrolling by. So if you're DJ, you can have your little VU meters going while the music that you're DJing is playing. All kinds of cool stuff like that. You can have like an animated logo. It's very cool. And I mean, it's a gimmick, but why not? Like people try to differentiate, and gaming laptops are always a little over top in this really kind of awkward way, I think. And this is over top in a very kind of like different way.
Yep.
So I thought it was cool. Oh, and the keyboard has really good key travel, like more than a standard keyboard. It's like
Mechanical keyboard.
I don't think
Right?
it's mechanical, but it's definitely backlit. And check out my video on my YouTube channel. I'll link it in the show notes below. But that was the one thing, and the OnePlus we're going to talk about in a second, that I felt was exciting about since the last show.
Yeah,
But
I've been really digging the fact that Asus seems to be going back to that heritage from a decade ago of just putting out devices that are likely limited product runs, but calling them real products. Like, you know how like back in the day they came out with the pad phone and all of this, and really they were like, these are real products, but they were only making 10,000 of them just to test the market. And I feel like their laptop line is going in this direction, which I'm really happy about. That playfulness and that like, oh, this doesn't make sense or this does make sense. At least they're trying and putting stuff out. And the laptop market had gotten a bit conservative and boring over the last few years, just about like minor iterations and like making things a little bit better. And then now with the whole creator line and the whole gaming line, I feel like the category is finally getting legs again.
I hope there's more emphasis on the creator line, because there's more and more people. Because while not every media press person here at CES is a creator, right? Not everyone's doing video and photo editing. Most people are writing, but I just want a laptop with an SD card slot in it, right? Like, it's so simple.
Yeah.
I have to pull out a stupid dongle and plug it in, but like if we can actually because a gamer doesn't need that, right? But we need more ports on the side to plug things in, and specific types of ports, because we have external devices that need them.
it did not have an SD card slot, but it
Well,
did
then,
have.
then it can't be a creative
It
laptop.
had two USB.
Like, I take that away from
It
you.
had two USB-Cs. That one of them or both of them had Thunderbolt on them. It had two USB-As. It had a full-size HDMI port and that special power connector and headphone jack.
Yeah, I tried to do the Wi-Fi SD card, but you can't.
No, here it's impossible.
For photos, fine. Actually,
For videos?
For video, impossible.
No.
But even for photos, like if I go out and shoot all morning long, I have 179 photos in RAW.
Oh, and RAW.
Like
I don't
even not
I don't
RAW,
shoot
like,
RAW.
but even
Neither
if
do I.
even if it's not RAW, like I have a Sony camera, the regular photo is 5 megabit.
Hell, my iPhone and Pixel 4 shoot photos that are 4 megabytes on a regular
Yeah, I
basis.
mean, I don't mind that so like I like it to take the photo and then to be able to transfer it to my phone to share on social, like the beautiful
the
DSLR photo. I mean, I gave it a whirl to try to be like, okay, there's no SD card slot, but no, it's actually impossible.
It's an annoyance that
Yeah.
you
So-
have to you have to have the dongle with you 24/7.
So laptopless manufacturers and companies, if you're listening to this show, we want more creative, whatever laptops.
Give us the SD card back.
That's all we want, the SD card.
You can even hide it in the hinge or something cool like that.
Yeah, in the back.
Yeah,
We don't care where
yeah.
you put
Yeah.
it.
Stick it somewhere. It doesn't have to be obvious. Also,
Put it somewhere awkward. That's more fun.
So let me think. We talked about Lenovo a little bit. So yeah, for me that ThinkPad X1, full, beyond all the different modes of use, I felt just so like a ThinkPad. You feel like you're not gonna break it, and that just stood out for me.
Well, and Lenovo also had their Chromebook tablet, their IdeaPad Duet.
I didn't see that.
So it's a 10-inch Chromebook tablet. So
Okay.
Google's done this already, but it's
Like
$270.
the Slate, you mean?
Yeah, so it's $279, but it comes with the detachable keyboard and a case that acts as a stand for $279.
Sounds
Like,
bad.
as far as value goes, it's impeccable. And honestly, it feels, the user interface and everything like that feels so much more responsive than what Google did with the Slate, even though this is an extremely budget-friendly device. So that kind of surprised me. I looked at it and I was like, okay, this is going to be like $399, but for $279 with the accessories included for turning it into your mini laptop, it's a great Android tablet alternative. Like, if you're looking to buy a 10-inch Android tablet, buy this Chromebook instead, because 99% of the time you're just browsing the web.
Yeah.
And then you get the Play Store and all that, and you get the accessories with it. It's perfect Christmas present. Too bad we're past Christmas already.
Do we want to touch on Dell and HP a little bit? We did talk about HP on the last podcast, but Dell not much. I know that I got briefed by Dell in December in SF, and they showed me the Ori, which is very similar to the Lenovo X1 Fold. ThinkPad X1 Fold. And then they showed this Duet, which is a dual screen laptop, very similar to what Microsoft kind of showed us earlier this year.
Duo, yeah.
And then they showed us this, what is it called? I need to Google it now. The weird, my Nintendo Switch thing.
The Nintendo Switch for portable Windows gaming.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, so like, I don't remember the name because it's a concept. It's not a product that they're actually coming out with, but.
Or that we know of.
Yeah, so maybe next year.
Testing the market to see how the
But I saw the images come through with the press release, and I was like, I would buy that. I have no reason to, but I would buy it just because.
Concept UFO by Alienware. That is what it's called.
And that's why none of us remembered the name.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's not as exciting as Switch.
Yeah.
But it looks, at first...
It looks amazing.
It looks amazing.
Yeah.
It's very well... So basically, I mean... I'll link to something in the show notes, but if you're trying to picture this as you're driving your car right now, listening to the podcast, or commuting, imagine a Nintendo Switch, but instead of being a Nintendo piece of hardware that can only do Nintendo-y things, it is a full-fledged Windows PC in that form factor.
Yeah.
So
and it's white.
It's like a tablet, basically, but it's small.
Yep. So it's white and black color schemes, and then the glass for the display... because it's on the white body, instead of just doing those regular rectangle, the glass itself is actually what shape? Like trapezoid. Trapezoid. So it extends on the side, and it just gives it a unique look and feel to it. So the screen is actually just a rectangle, but the glass that's over the screen is trapezoid. Yeah. And it just looks futuristic and awesome.
And it has those Nintendo Switch-like controllers on each side that you can attach. And then you can reattach into one and play remotely again.
So honestly, is it a complete Switch knockoff, just running Windows and
it has like a beefy guts. Like it has it's of course a prototype, but the power supply for it was almost the same size as it. It was a pretty big brick. But of course, you can dock it to a TV or something, or monitor, or a gaming monitor, and then play
your games on
your... Speaking of gaming monitors, I don't want to talk about them. I just want to talk about...
There was a lot of them.
The resurgence, the appearance, the rise of the 300 hertz display on various laptops and in gaming panels, gaming monitors, it's kind of blown my mind. Really? People play that? 360 or 300 hertz?
No, they don't because they haven't had it yet, but they will.
But apparently they want to, and apparently the demos show how different it looks, and scrolling text is clearer. It looks good.
Amazing.
I know it looks amazing.
It looks amazing.
But I'm like, I thought our eyes were kind of like, couldn't really pick anything up past 70 or 80 hertz.
Yeah, but I mean, like, part of the reason I love going OnePlus is now I didn't think I cared about hertz, and now I'm like,
the 90 hertz.
Once you had 90 hertz, my Pixel 4 over there, that's acting as my hotspot right now, is pegged to 90 hertz in the debug settings, because there's no way I'm doing variable. There's no way. I don't care what it does to the battery life. I do not care.
Well, you've got the XL. I've got the baby Pixel, and my battery will die in a second if I turn it on.
Your battery will die when you just look at the phone.
Yeah.
So let's actually switch to talking about this since we're so close to it in refresh rates and stuff. The OnePlus Concept One. What are your thoughts?
I have mixed feelings.
Are you mad?
I'm not mad, but like the idea of the concept phone is great. But then I looked at it and I was like, there's nothing. Personally, I found nothing about it exciting. Like.
For me,
the technology has been used for decades. Like, that's decades old technology, and they're like, innovation. I'm like, just because you put the old technology on a new product is not innovation.
Well, I think you're being a little harsh.
I am, but I was expecting, because they had a press release 2 weeks ago that they're coming to CES.
They hyped it a little too much.
And you show me a phone that's essentially the phone you've already built with a leather back. That's kind of cool.
It is a OnePlus 7T Pro, 100%.
Yeah, but like, honestly, I like the design of it. Other than the design, there's nothing.
What I thought, the reason I think you're being harsh is not that I disagree with you. I think, yes, they hyped it, and I don't think it's really that innovative. But if you see how much work they put in the engineering for turning it on and off, and the thickness of it, that is very innovative. On a 787, and like a McLaren car that has that as a sunroof, it takes several seconds for the thing to switch on and off, and it's
But
thick and
it's
there's
a
no
lot
constraint.
larger. That's why it takes a lot.
I don't think
because
it's
they run the.
I'm not sure it's because they all switch at the same time. If you're in a Dreamliner, you can literally see the whole window slowly fade. So I think it's more like, I appreciate that they spend some time doing that.
I do as well. Yeah, I think that it's a cool feature and I didn't expect that was the announcement.
Was be,
I expected it was something on the front, right? I thought it was the under
or
camera
something
display
with the
for the
cameras
front,
or
on the camera, right?
Well, that's inevitable that Oppo is doing.
That we've seen it on Oppo. I just thought they were just going to do like that feature roll from the Oppo phone onto the OnePlus under camera display.
I was expecting
BBK, right?
Yeah. That's totally what I thought. And so when I saw the active glass on the back, I was like, okay. It's completely unnecessary.
Yes.
So
completely unnecessary.
Purely aesthetics.
But fine.
Until for me it was like, I don't care about any of this cosmetics. It's cool. I like the design. I think it looks pretty. It's certainly luxurious. The gold coating that's done with PVD on aluminum. Nobody's done PVD on aluminum before. Physical vapor deposition is very hard and scratch proof. It's used on watches. I learned about it when I was at Pebble because all our Pebble steel that I launched here in 2014 had PVD on it. But it wasn't aluminum, it was PVD on stainless. So it's always PVD on stainless. This is PVD on aluminum, and it's gold on aluminum, and it seems pretty durable, so I think it's interesting. But where they totally turned it around for me and really got me is the ND filter feature. The fact that slightly opaque or a variable opacity of that panel that can hide the cameras in the back, because that's what cosmetically it's doing, can also be adjusted so that you have a neutral density filter on your camera.
Okay, that's so dope, right? Like just think of like
to me that is amazing, because if you shoot in manual, you set the ISO to 50, which is the highest, the smallest number, but the highest ISO in terms of like more light, and then you set the shutter speed to like 1/5000 or something. In the sunlight, you need an ND filter. Like, it's just going to be completely gone. So now you can have this. You have another little thing you can tweak. And I think, you know who else who did an ND filter, but it was physically like shutter that went in front of the lens, was Nokia with the N80. No, the N8, not the N8. One of the N series phones that was a Symbian candy bar phones. And
they had a little shutter switch.
No, it was just activated by the software. But if it was too bright, the shutter would close on it. It was an ND filter.
Which I think is really, really amazing. Whenever I forget my ND filter, and then when I found it, I actually have it, I put it on, my photography is like exponentially improved.
You just became professional.
I just became a professional photographer in that exact moment.
So for me, that was, until then I was like, okay, this is cosmetic, you made a big hype, blah, blah, blah. It's just the OnePlus 7T Pro with McLaren leather on the back, and this cool feature where the camera literally disappears. But then I was like, oh, ND filter, now you're talking to me. So that's all I want to say. I was like, and again, it's a concept, it'll never come out, and it's a little bit of...
I just want to know, like, how much that phone actually costs.
So I think...
With that on there, because that's, like, the technology has been around for years, but it's still expensive. That's why you don't see it anywhere.
And actually, for me, it's not how much will that phone actually cost, it's will they actually bring that phone out?
No. So they told me, not, and I can't say exactly how I got this info, but it was clear to me that from the discussion I had with various people at the party last night and at the event, was that it's not the cost is definitely going to be an issue. That's part of the reason. But right now, the biggest issue is mass production. They cannot consistently make these things.
Right.
Because the changes they made for the speed and the thickness, it's 0.35 millimeters. It's a hair thickness. And the speed, 0.7 seconds to switch completely, is causing, like, it requires, basically the manufacturing processes to make that happen are really difficult to meet in mass quantity. Nicole, I know you got to run.
I do. Unfortunately, CES is one of those things.
But do you have 1 second to discuss Fisker with me? I was just at their booth, finally saw the Fisker Ocean.
Okay.
You know I'm a bit EV fan because I have a Tesla. I'm like a bit of a Tesla freak now. Not as bad as some of those people out there. But I judge a lot of stuff now in the automotive industry based on that. And people call me unreasonable, as you saw in the comment threads. I just feel like the incumbents, the existing car companies, still need to make the mental switch to be competitive, because But I want to see other competitors. And Fisker's been not always delivered quite as well as they promised in the past. But I don't think it's Henrik. I just think there's other parameters involved here. I feel a little more positive about this because I feel like the skateboard or whatever chassis they're building this on looks like it's BYD or some Chinese existing well-proven thing.
Yeah.
And I feel more confident that they might be able to pull this off. What do you think real quick about Fisker?
So I'm still unsure if they can deliver quality on scale. But I think that concern is with Audi, is with BMW. It's with everyone. I mean, Volkswagen should be the only manufacturer that has the history of scaling like this. So I'm not even confident about VW right now. I think that the entire automotive industry saw where the benchmark was with Tesla, and they still missed the mark, right? So like after releasing products that weren't good enough for a product that's been out for 3 years, I'm still like, I don't want to say that I don't believe anyone can do it, but I think that we're almost there that we can believe in Fisker. So I'm more positive, but I'm still not.
I mean,
not there.
A lot of people are saying, Fisker is very good at delivering vaporware, and I think that's a little bit harsh. But I feel like it's a valid concern. The Karma was a beautiful car. I knew a Karma owner. Yeah. One of my fellows at Pebble drove our Karma and eventually sold it, and they had countless issues with drivetrain, like mechanicals and the fit and finish and the build quality. But the car was absolutely gorgeous, and I want to give Mr. Fisker kudos. I'm a big fan of his design language over the years for all the different companies he's worked for. And this thing, I'm not a SUV person. I know that's where the world is at, and I cannot get over it. And
I'm not on board either.
But I have to say that thing, and by the way, the Ford Mach-E, in my opinion as well, are pretty damn good looking for small SUVs or CUVs. And so I'm impressed with the design, and from what I'm seeing, it looks like they're using an existing skateboard from someone, which reassures me that they can meet the mass manufacturing goals and do it somewhat well. Because in the past, the problem with the Karma is that it was all bespoke, built in-house, with everything. A coach builder or somebody that they had, one of the German or Austrian, whatever, that built cars in small quantities, and that's always a nightmare. So I'm hoping they can deliver. But my biggest gripe right now is that nobody seems to be able to get close to Tesla. And I'm not saying it's one thing that you say to me, oh, we don't have the battery tech, so we're a little behind. So instead of 370 mile on range on a 100 kilowatt, we're doing 350 or 340. I'd be like, dude, that's fine. You're in the ballpark. Keep going. But what we're getting here is, cars with battery packs the same size as a Model S that does 370 miles. That, like in the case of the Taycan, literally does 200 miles. That's almost half. And when you talk to the people, you find out it's not the battery tech. It's that they're being conservative. They're worried about fire and warranty issues and whatever. And I think those are legit in another universe where Tesla doesn't exist. But in another universe where Tesla exists and shows the way, they're going to have to adapt. And I know there are risks you need to take. And okay, so you have to buy a new pack under warranty. Maybe for a customer who's not happy. Well, maybe you should make your battery packs more reliable and better. And maybe, you can...
to that point, yes. But they have not made battery packs yet. So you can't tell somebody to make something better when they haven't done the first generation yet.
They're starting.
But it's going to... Like Teslas, the first ones had bad battery life. And
went on fire.
It's true. And
they're still going on fire.
But how long has it been? How long have they been?
Well, 2012 was the Model S, so we're...
So, I mean, for the Model S, but they've been doing it since before then.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's been a long time, and it takes time with these new technologies.
For sure.
We have to get there.
I just feel that with all the might and the money that the Germans and the Japanese have, you'd think that by now they would be able to catch up, or become close. But yeah, I'm strangely excited about the Fisker after seeing it. I did not expect that at all.
I'm honestly I'm still suspicious. I mean, if the big guys can't meet Tesla and produce a car that's reliable, and I think that the Germans are right in being conservative, because you know what, like this isn't making cars for enthusiasts who are forgiving. This is making cars for the mass market.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a totally different audience than the one that Tesla is going for. Tesla's ahead, right, because they have been doing it longer, and they have the infrastructure. It's a little bit better, but they have to build things in a way that instill confidence, because the EV market is so new that they have
But
to.
in the meantime, you
make
look at
people
Tesla's
move
numbers
forward.
on the Model 3, and like in the Netherlands, was the most successful car of all time right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Like, and you asking yourself, well, maybe you shouldn't be waiting much longer, and maybe you should change some of those standards you've
Yeah.
had for 100 years and adjust to the market conditions. Because I have, like, when you see people trading in the industry, they're Honda Civics and Mazda 3s for Model 3s that cost twice, 3 times as much. Something is happening out there.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's not
Or
just
you
hype.
could be Honda and say
Oh,
we have
God.
this amazing looking
Panda,
EV and
Panda.
say we only want to give it to a couple people and we actually don't think it's a priority.
Yeah. Well, on that note, Nicole, we don't want to
I
keep
do
you.
I do have to bounce off. But thank you so much for having me on. And
Absolutely.
Nick, you have enough personality to fill for both of us. So
I hope so.
thanks, guys.
No problem. Thanks, Nicole. So, Nick, how do you feel about EVs and cars and this whole stuff? Like, we're really seeing a shift towards mobility at CES, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been strange because cars have been here for so many years, and honestly, the last 2 years has been really different as far as just the whole feel of the show. Like, it was automotive's here, and we have some tech in automotive, and now everything in automotive here is tech, and not just EVs, but like the whole tech aspect of the cars and self-driving cars. Like, we see that so much more here than honestly, I think we see more self-driving stuff than actual EV stuff.
Yeah, true.
And
we have for a long time.
for a long time.
Yeah.
And honestly, that really excites me. Like, you can take a lift here in the city, and they've been, the active is
Yeah.
here. Yeah,
Autonomous
driving.
rides.
Yeah, and it's really cool. Like, they still have a long ways to go. Like, they have to map things, and they work with the street lights with the special sensors, so they can't go out of a certain area because the street lights don't have the sensors in them to communicate if it's a green light or a red light. But honestly, the EV thing is going to come eventually. I'm more excited about the self-driving thing because that's transformational in the way we think about vehicles.
Yeah.
Going from everybody owns a vehicle to, hey, here's a ride-hailing service that drives itself, and it's a fourth of the cost of Lyft because you don't have to pay the driver. Not to say we don't want people having jobs and driving, but that's, the biggest cost right now with ride-sharing services is, the person that's behind the wheel taking you places.
Absolutely.
And I'm a big proponent of self-driving vehicles. We're not even close to being there yet, but it's exciting to see the technology here.
But at the same time, we've seen a lot of kind of pie-in-the-sky car concepts and ideas. And I don't want to say that autonomous is pie-in-the-sky. It's going to happen. It's inevitable.
Eventually.
It's going to change exactly the way you see ownership and mobility.
Yep.
There's going to be car sharing, ride-hailing services,
Yep.
and what else using autonomy for sure. But I feel like in the automotive realm, CS has always been pie in the sky.
Yes.
A little too much for my liking, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and
So
it's there. The nice thing is, though, the last couple of years, we've actually seen things actually come to market with those pie-in-the-sky things. Like, Tesla keeps moving the ball forward, and some of these EV, startups essentially coming to market, or even just we've seen some of these people mover EVs that are self-driving, like little shuttle services that are on college campuses in a couple places or in the DC area. Like, you actually see those in the real world. And 2 years ago, I wouldn't have thought those would, have a chance at all. But we're actually seeing it, which is really exciting for me.
yeah, totally. I feel the same way. So, it's interesting because our sponsor is Dassault Systèmes this week, and they actually have, they're an incubator here. French company, became famous for making 3D modeling software back in the day, in the 70s, very early on when they needed it for making aircraft, because they make aircraft. And so from aircraft, they went to making 3D modeling tools, to then selling these tools to companies who then were trying to get funding for their projects, and then Dassault said, hey, we're a big company, we sold you tools, but maybe we can incubate you. And so they're an incubator, and they have a bunch of companies here on the show floor that are basically consumer-facing companies. And one of them is called Canoo, Canoo. And Canoe is basically this company based out of Southern California that has a skateboard type EV design with a modular top. So you can have like a minivan or a pickup truck or a car or
shuttle.
whatever, or a shuttle. And their entire business model is, we don't want to sell those. We just want to make a fleet of them. And you order what shell you want on top, and you basically borrow it for the time you need. And when you're done, it goes off and does its own thing. And they're betting obviously on EV a lot. But as you said, what's much more exciting, they're betting on autonomy. Yep. They're betting on basically this entire fleet. At first probably will have not full autonomy, and will have pedals and a steering wheel, but eventually will be completely autonomous. And so, you'll pull out your app and say, I need a car for the afternoon, and you get a car for the afternoon with configured the way you want. And what's interesting is that their skateboard today is designed for everything's ride-by-wire. So the pedals and the steering wheel can be added if they're still needed.
And then they can just
and then eventually they can remove them. And so what you just talked about just now, this strong autonomy, presence at CES, it's starting to be less pie in the sky now at CES, this automotive stuff. For a while, it was just like, ta-da, we want to impress. In a way, Mercedes, we didn't talk about it when Nicole was here, but Mercedes did this crazy concept car at CES this year that was, as she said, very Instagram worthy, but that's about it. And that's what I mean by it was very flashy before, and now it's a lot more, I feel it's a lot more like real. When you see companies like Canoe that have been around for a while, have a car that you can try out, that exists.
Yeah, you can step inside these little shuttle things.
Correct. And that they're really trying, they're thinking like way further ahead. They're like, okay, so eventually when everything is autonomous and cars can't collide anymore, safety is no longer a primary concern in the design, right? It's still a concern, but not quite as much as it is today, because that there's going to be a lot less accidents. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, you're really optimistic, because until we have all cars autonomous, it's going to be dangerous out there.
Well, and one thing to keep into consideration there is, if you are no longer buying a vehicle, there's certain things that are no longer important. You don't care about 0 to 60. You don't care about top speed.
But you might still, and that's actually a discussion I had with Canoe.
But like for a regular user, if you're using a ride-sharing service, you just want to get in the vehicle, you want it to take you to your destination. There's no like the driver experience anymore. Like that whole thing, or the luxuries that a driver wants in his vehicle are different than I'm a passenger in a vehicle. Like you still want luxuries and things like that.
You want the entertainment.
But it's not my purchase. It's not my vehicle. So it changes the concept of transportation, because right now everybody I have my car, right? Versus I'm going from point A to point B, and that's what these vehicles will solve. You won't own a car, and I think a lot of people will have issues getting over that, but I think it's an amazing thing.
It's inevitable. It's inevitable. I think it's going to be really hard in America, where it's like owning a car is, in some places,
it's a status symbol.
In some places, like owning a gun. It's like, out of my dead hands kind of thing. And I think that, I think for me, what's interesting in what you just said is I talked about the folks at Canoe about this. Is there room in here for going beyond car enthusiasm as we know it today, where it's based on performance and the feel and the experience? That's all very important. But is there a possibility that in the future we can gamify the autonomous driving experience such that you feel that you're in command, but you're not really? Yet you experience,
pretend it's a little video game, and you can one-up other people and get points or something.
Yeah.
No, I like that idea.
And so that's kind of what I said, because I think that in the same way as people still, ride horses today, as a recreational thing, I don't think that it's going to ever stop that people are going to drive cars on a racetrack or in a controlled environment and have fun experiences, and maybe have what will be at that point antique cars, which are gasoline powered, very expensive. An antique
2020 vehicle.
I know, exactly. And I think there's that, but I think that there's also this big chance that because you're so bored in this autonomous drive, you might be given a steering wheel and pedals, and you might be able to affect the way the autonomous is behaving without completely controlling anything.
Yeah, so you move the steering wheel, and when it's ready, really hard, it will go.
If there's space, it gives you that crazy 0 to 60 kick, which it can, because it's an EV and it has all the reserves in the world to do it. And, Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how it evolves. But the other thing that I saw that Dassault Systèmes was incubating is a battery pack that's roughly the size of a suitcase, like a big suitcase, that you can, and this is a B2B thing. This is not something they're going to sell to you and me, but they're going to sell it to companies like AAA maybe. Like, I don't know who they're going to sell it to. I'm just assuming. But it's basically a battery pack that's modular. That's a suitcase, basically. And it has fast DC charging output. It's only 3 kilowatt, so it's 50 pounds. It's manageable in terms of weight. But 50 kilowatt can give you a 20-minute charge, a 20-mile charge in 20 minutes. And so if you need an emergency charge, or you know you're going to go a little beyond what your range is currently, and you're at work right now and your car's in the parking lot, you can order this service that comes to your car with a suitcase, plugs it in, you open the port for them, they plug in, it charges for 20 minutes, they take it off, they leave, something like that. It was cool. It's called Spark Charge. And I was like, it's kind of like, what's it called? AAA coming to you with a gas can, right?
Yeah, it's the gas can of, I ran out of gas.
Or it's I need a top off right now. There's actually a service, I don't know what it's called, but there's a service that exists today where you can order fuel to your
the
car.
Parking lot. Yeah, I've seen that.
They have a truck with a little gas pump in it. And it's kind of fun.
I think things like that are interesting once we get a mature market for it. Like there'll be different applications for, we need some extra battery power, or we need some unique thing delivered to a vehicle that in the current state doesn't exist, but we have something comparable to the current, gas engine vehicles. So eventually the market will evolve to, we need an electric version of this thing as well.
So we haven't talked much about TVs and audio on this show because we did cover that a little more on the last episode with Shannon Morse, which was earlier this week. Anything that stood out for you in terms of TV and audio?
As far as TVs goes, you probably heard it before, but 8K is here to stay. I don't know what the heck any of us are going to watch in 8K because the content, we barely have, let's be honest, we barely have decent 4K content at this point. Like, we're finally getting to the point where 4K is becoming the standard, but we still have a long ways to go for 4K, and having 8K come up now, and it's going to be here for now until eternity. It looks freaking amazing.
It's incredible.
I've seen so many 8K panels. I walk up,
It's the depth, right? It's the depth.
It's the depth, but like just the clarity and the brightness of the screens, because they've been pushing the nits on these 8K displays just because they have to.
Right.
But you walk up to it and you get within 6 inches of the panel and you still can't see individual pixels.
Yeah.
I mean, sitting across the room, at a 4K TV, if you're 5 feet away, you're really not going to know that it's the distance, but they can push the sizes a lot more. Like, I think the smallest 8K I saw was like 84 inches or something.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I mean, what's interesting to me is that what TCL said at the press conference, which was like, we expect within a year or two every TV to be 8K. And not necessarily because the content will exist, because everybody's always screaming like, well, what's the point? We don't have the content. Because apparently, with AI upscaling technologies where you can analyze the image in real time and
that's getting better and better.
And upscale, and the processing power is there now. It won't matter. You will just benefit from 8K even with 4K content.
I want to know what processing power you actually need to upscale to 8K, because that's a whole lot of photo editing and video editing. That's one thing, like it's a unique thing, but live upscaling from 4K to 8K, that's a lot of power.
I know, but it's also a very narrow use case scenario. So you can create custom chips to do that. Whereas our smartphone chips have to handle AI for general purpose. And, that's challenging. Although they are getting more and more AI specific, our phones, for photography and imaging, because that's obviously
specific chips for those.
Exactly, yeah. The ISPs are getting AI embedded in them now.
Now, as far as audio goes, though, like, true wireless earbuds are
real.
$20, $30, $40, $100, $300. There's a whole scale of everything, which is really nice because what was it, like 4 years ago was the first time that they showed up here, and now they're
Braggy,
everywhere.
right?
Yeah, Braggy was
Braggy
here
was first.
showing them
Then
off.
we got the AirPods.
Well, no, we saw a lot before the
Well,
AirPods.
yeah, but there was nothing that stood out. Braggy stands out because they were first.
Yeah.
AirPods stood out because they did it right and then they democratized it in the sense that it's it worked and everybody could have it.
Yep.
And then now I feel like you're right. It's like we're at the point where I'm expecting any day now to see these in blister packs at 7-Eleven.
Yeah, you probably can right now.
That is my litmus test for
You're
technology.
gonna find disposable ones, like
Yeah.
single-use, true
Correct.
wireless
You
earbuds
never have to
with
recharge
noise
them.
cancellation.
Yeah.
$5, throw them away once the battery is dead.
That is my litmus test for technology. If you see it at a blister pack at 7-Eleven or
7-Eleven.
CVS or Walgreens or Safeway, you have arrived. You have arrived.
Yeah.
I have a pipe dream, actually. I want to hear what you think about this, Nick. I've been talking about this for at least 5 years, and I hope somebody makes it happen because I don't have the time and energy to make it happen. I want to go to 7-Eleven or CVS or whatever and buy a blister pack $25 tablet that comes with a preset amount of 4G data and a preset amount of battery. And when I'm done, I bring it back and I get a deposit back out of that $25. Maybe it's $25 plus a $5 deposit or $10 deposit, making the deposit a big chunk of it. That way I'm kind of encouraged to come back and drop it off when it's dead. And they can basically recondition it and recycle it into a new tablet that's going to be in another blister pack 2 days later. And the idea is this is a kind of like the Fire tablet. It's pseudo disposable. It doesn't have kind of like a state of permanence in the sense that you can easily, like a Chromebook, log someone else in, and the entire Google or whatever ecosystem pops up. And, they might be monochrome or e-ink or they could, nowadays they could even just be IPS because it's so cheap to make tablets. But the idea is that you got a preset amount of 4G connectivity that comes with it. And you have a bunch of them in the various drawers in your house. And, grandma comes to visit and she forgot her laptop or iPad or whatever. Just hand one of those over to her and she can watch Netflix and, on the Wi-Fi. And then if she walks away, she can do Google Maps or whatever.
I think the technology, like as far as the cost for it, probably 3 years. But honestly, I don't think there would be a need for it because at this point we are cycling through devices so quickly that a lot of people already have a tablet just sitting in their drawer that they're not using. Like even, non-tech enthusiasts have this collection of deprecated devices that they're just...
But the idea here is that it's up to date, right? Like, so you're
if
not buying deprecated technology.
If you're just watching Netflix, or like, do you need something that's up to date? Like if you're just watching Netflix or browsing the web quickly for 30 minutes or something.
Security is an issue, right? These old tablets in your drawer, they're not running the latest version of Android. They don't have the security patches. This would always have the security patches.
This
The
is
software
true, but
would
then
always be up
you
to
would
date.
get the people on the other end of the spectrum saying, well, a shared device isn't secure.
Yeah,
right?
That's a good point. Yeah.
So like from a technology standpoint, as an affordability thing, I say 3 years we're there. From a use case, I don't think the use case is there, but like from the price, I think we would be there in about 3 years.
I'm just picturing like it's very cyberpunk. It's like you need a terminal. It's here. It's disposable.
Yep.
You don't have to worry.
Well,
about
I mean, it could be like the scooter rentals.
Yeah.
Like you just have docks places where you just swipe your card or unlock a tablet with your phone. And then you put it back in. It has a little cleaning mechanism, and so it's not like a blister pack. You just use it for an hour, but then we all have devices with us all the time. So
True. And it's just I don't know. It's just an idea that's always tickled my fancy. Anyway, we should probably wrap it up. I want to thank you for being on the show and give you an opportunity to tell the world where they can find you.
You can find me on Phandroid.com for all of our CES 2020 coverage and going forward into this new year.
We have MWC just coming up right around the corner.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Which is crazy. So yeah, check out Phandroid.com. We have our YouTube channel as well, youtube.com/Phandroid for all of our coverage.
And I just want to chime in for Nicole since she had to go. If you're interested in following Nicole, check her out on Twitter at Nicole Scooter. That's Nicole_Scooter with a little @ symbol in front of it. And of course at mobilegeeks.com, and you should be able to find her YouTube videos on YouTube as well at Mobile Geeks. So check her out. And you know where to find me, folks, on the internet. I'm at Tank Girl, that's TNKGRL on Twitter and Instagram. Like the comic book character Tank Girl without the vowels. And on Twitter is where you probably want to interact with me about this podcast. If you want to ask questions, make corrections, please, ping me on Twitter. And on Instagram, you'll find some photos of devices I'm playing with and photos taken with these devices. I like to take lots of photos with phones. So if you like nice photography, hopefully you'll check out my Instagram. Finally, there is a YouTube channel that goes along with the podcast called the Mobile Tech Podcast YouTube channel. If you type Mobile Tech Podcast in the YouTube search bar, you'll find the channel. And please subscribe, tell your friends, like the videos, comment and hit the little notification icon. But, the channel is basically a visual supplement to the podcast. If you want to see what these devices look like, how they work, I do little videos, hands-ons, unboxing, that sort of thing. A lot of the devices we talked about on this show that were shown this week at CES will be showcased with links in the show notes below. And we'll link to the YouTube channel. Finally, if you stumbled upon the podcast by accident and you're wondering how to subscribe, mobiletechpodcast.com is the URL. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, and Spotify, and pretty much any podcast app can subscribe just easily. If you are following on one of the platforms that allows it, please review us, please rate us, please tell us what you think, us being my guests and I. And then finally, I want to thank our sponsor, the other sponsor, the one that's a regular sponsor, audible.com. They're pretty awesome if you like books, if you're a bookworm, but for some reason you are unable to read books on paper or e-ink and you need to listen to them. They are the platform of choice. We love Audible because right now I think we're about to start binging on the new Star Wars. So every time a new Star Wars movie comes out, they come out with a 21-hour epic reading of the movie, basically, and it's amazing. And the one thing I love about Audible is that a lot of the books are read by the authors. You really get this super immersive experience. If you're driving all day or you're on a road trip and you can't read a book, listen to a book with audible.com. We have a special deal. If you want to try it out, there's no strings attached, and you will help the podcast by going to audibletrial.com/mobiletech. That's audibletrial.com/mobiletech. You get 30 days free trial. You get to keep one of the books you download, and you don't have to stay. And no matter what you do, stay or go, continue with the service or not, you support the podcast. So audibletrial.com/mobiletech. It's in the show notes below if you want to click on it instead of type it in. Thanks to Audible for being a long-time sponsor. And thanks to you, Nick, and to Nicole, of course, for both being my guests on the show. Thanks, Nick.
My pleasure, as always.
Absolutely. We'll have you on again sometime soon. MWC is just around the corner. But until then, it's still a few weeks away. We'll have another show every week, so stay tuned. And that's it for now. Cheers, everybody.
Bye.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.